Hello, my name is Dar'ya Guarnera, and I hope you can hear me. And I am a researcher at NTNU Jobbik, and today I would like to talk about color constancy in virtual reality. So here's the overview of my talk. I will mention previous work on the material constancy appearance, how to achieve it in post-processing and in rendering at rendering times. Therefore, because we use these techniques also for color constancy in virtual reality environment. And I'm gonna talk about the head-mounted display calibration and the experiments in VR. In our early research, we focused on the appearance, consistent material appearance. As you can see from this image, these are pairs of spheres. Now, this is the same material, same lighting, same environment, everything is the same. The difference is it's different softwares are used to render it. And it is quite common in digital content creation that different software tools are used. And as a common scenario, the artist is given the specific source model, which he or she needs to recreate in a different software using the target model. Sometimes it's due not just to different software, but also to the update of the software. So we know that the real-world images are the result of complex interactions between light, material, and geometry. So we thought, what if we could think of the renderer as for example, an image filter, like sharpening, blurring, but of course more complex than that. And I thought that if we take the shape out of unknown by using a simple shape, we could write an expression like this, that the rendered image is given by the render filter applied to material and lighting. Now, if we break down this further and we try to estimate the parameters of this filter on a material classes, such as plastics, metals, leather, etc., we could derive some meaningful parameters. Like here, one is represents energy, the shape of highlights, blurring, variance. And if we do this, we actually can apply the inverse filter on the source renderer and then apply the filter of the target renderer into the image to obtain the desirable results. Of course, for this, we need to have a good tool to segment the image on the per class material, the material class, which we did with deep network. And of course, next, we need to estimate the lighting. And here, the example of the result of this work. We had the Blender as a target mode renderer and 3ds Max as a source. Applying this technique, we obtain this image. The result is reasonable. Of course, if difference between renderers is so dramatic, we can start noticing artifacts. This is due that it's done in post-processing. But, as I say, results are reasonable. Here you can take one renderer and make it look, the output, closer to the desired renderer. Now, to address the post-processing issue, we explored a different path by comparing the effect of VRDF parameters in the image space in order to find mapping between different VRDF models or renderers. And thanks to this mapping, we would be able to use the appropriate material appearance at rendering time, directly leading to the desired images. So in this work, we rendered a gray sphere under two lighting conditions. One is a point light, the other one is the environment map, which we specially designed. It includes average gray, several spectral bands, step edges, and smooth transitions. All this to account on what is human eye sensitive to. Render a sphere under our environment. Like this example, in a specular and diffuse channels, which we analyze separately. So here's our framework, which takes an input, the reference, including geometry and lighting, and a list of VRDF parameters. It renders the image of the target model and the source model, initially with the random guess of parameters, and pass it to the optimization, which is run by genetic algorithm, and genetic algorithm is guided by the fitness function, which is perceptually based, and making sure that we'll find the best parameters mapping between source and the target model. So this work actually can more reliable than the previous one, regardless of the complexity of the shape. Here you can see the material applied. This is one model, different materials, and mapped to the other. It also works for more complex scenes. Here on the left is three different models remapped to three other models in material. And here you can see the arrow map, which is amplified by a factor of 4 for better visualization. This framework also deals with the spatially varying VRDFs. And finally, it also can address the anisotropy. The top row is a fortune model mapped to wood model, and wood mapped to the GX model. We also conducted perceptual materials in collaboration with the Gießen University, which comes to a conclusion that our mapping is the best possible by comparing our mapping to the renderings of the parameters in their neighborhood. This work is also can be used for appearance-based VRDF fitting. Given a measured material image as an input to the framework, the output will suggest the best parameters for a given VRDF. Once we solved the problem of achieving consistent material appearance across different rendering systems and material models, we started using these techniques to run perceptual experiments in color constancy using different platforms, like rendering images in interactive virtual environment, or using regular rendering images on 2D screens. So color constancy is the ability of human visual system to discard to some extent the effect of illuminance on the perceived colors. In realistic settings, the human observers can reach a high level of color constancy. Like here, for example, the subject is placed in front of the box with a pinhole where he or she observing the scene inside and given some control to adjust color of the patch under certain illumination, whatever the task has been given. What are the limitations of this? It's that realistic settings are hard to build, hard to adjust or control. They're actually limited to what actually can build in the real world. So what if we remove all these constraints by virtual reality and take it, for example, into two realistic scenes, indoor and outdoor, for example. We can take loads of inspiration from real world. Here, the picture of the wood, which inspired the outdoor scene. The pipeline goes as follows. All the assets are created in Autodesk 3D Max, import to Unreal Engine, and also we use the head-mounted display. Now, of course, given the nature of the experiment, we need to perform an accurate calibration of the system, including head-mounted device, the display, and the software used for rendering images. We actually export two scenarios with and without software. That's where the head-mounted display is controlled directly by the Psych toolbox. We use two devices, which are Konica Minolta CS2000 and imaging colorimeter I29. I29 can give you chromaticity and luminance at very high resolution, and it also can deal with Fresnel lens, which is installed in head-mounted display. The Fresnel lens does provide you with a wide view, but it suffers from optical distortions and chromatic aberration. Usually this is taken care of by the software, which is actually where you run your like gaming engine, for example. That's why I'm not gonna talk about this, but instead I would like to mention that in our case, it was enough to perform 4-color calibration to obtain good results. A good matching between the ground truth provided by Konica Minolta and the measurements of the I29 that is itself needs to be calibrated before use. Here you can see circles for Konica Minolta and crosses for I29. Now, important thing to think of, what we actually can control in Unreal Engine is the reflectance of the material. So we need to verify that there is a linear relationship between reflectances and the corresponding luminance of the display. And here you can see the responses are pretty much linear. What you can see for higher values of luminance is due to the fact that we need to disable the tone mapping in Unreal. So as a consequence, we have to deal with clipping. And finally, we have all what we need for colorimetric characterization. And here the known RGB linear values and XYZ are the corresponding measurements with I29. And here's the results. The colored circles are predicted by our model, and black circles, Konica Minolta, and black crosses, I29. As you can see, it's pretty good results. So here now we have everything that we need to proceed with our experiments. And here's the room used for this particular experiment, which includes two lightings, one on the ceiling and dimmer one at the back. It's Also, it includes some metallic and glossy objects, white patches, and colorful areas. All this comes from previous research to increase color constancy. And here I want to show you the example of one subjects taking the experiment. So the participants are given instructions. They need to select a chromatic object, which we selected for us as lizard, which could be placed in different positions within 5 different illuminations. So first, the instructions are shown. I will skip this a little. And the subject is placed in the room and they observe the scene plus the lizard. Then the participant has to press the trigger, so the lizard disappears and illumination changes. The reason we asked for the participant to find the gnome in the room is to make sure the adaptation will be successful, because usually participants not spending enough time in the room without such instructions. So after 1 minute, the lizard will start appearing randomly in different locations. That's actually important. And the subject needs to select the closest match to the one originally seen and give the feedback of how confident their selection was. Each experiment involves 15 trials. So here we report results in terms of color constancy index, which ranges from 0 to 1, and 0 means no color constancy. 1 indicates perfect color constancy. And here is we reported 4 different illuminations: yellow, blue, green, and red. And this is the results which align with the results of similar real-world experiments. And therefore, can be used for such experiments. And will make it possible to explore additional conditions and cues and explain our understanding of color constancy better.